This is a video for week 8 of CIM 654 on measuring impact of knowledge management. I'm using this video really to conclude the knowledge management discussion around chief knowledge officers and the implementation of the knowledge management process that have occurred in weeks 5, 6, 7, and 8 during this class. And what I want to stress during this program is that knowledge management, as it's described, putting a full program together, takes time and money. First off, you have to create the program, you have to collect the knowledge, you have to classify the knowledge, you have to store the knowledge, and then you have to create some mechanism for sharing that knowledge. So you sort of have this contraption here that's in the diagram on the right side here, where you're processing the data and information. It goes through this process and it comes out the other side as knowledge. The key part of that is that contraption and the process of collecting the knowledge and processing the knowledge and sharing the knowledge and building the mechanisms takes time and money. So a business is about making a profit. If the business is going to spend money on knowledge management, for the knowledge management process to be effective, to be well received in the senior ranks of the organization, it must provide value to the organization. Simply put, you must be able to measure and demonstrate the return from the knowledge management program. So the question is, how do you do that? How do you measure the return from knowledge management? Well, there's 3 traditional ways that we measure returns from things in business. First off, we have activity measures, where we measure some sort of activity. We have business impact measures, which are either qualitative or quantitative. And then we have the more quantitative return on investment. And I'm going to briefly touch on each of these over the next few slides. So activity measures, what are we measuring? We're measuring some sort of activity that occurs. The number of contributions that were made to the knowledge management system. The number of people or the percentage or something that participated in the knowledge management system. The number of people who sat at the meetings, the number of people who attended the meetings, 50% of the project team attended the meeting and contributed, or something like that. We also might measure it by the number of pages of interviews captured, the number of words captured, the number of people interviewed. In kind of a more modern sense, you might measure it by the number of minutes of video that were captured. But you're measuring it by inputs. It's one activity. You can measure your inputs. Who played in the process. You can also measure it in terms of outputs. The number of searches done by people, the number of views of a particular document, a particular video, a particular sector of information in your system, the number of downloads, etc. Traditional ways businesses measure activities. For instance, apps, app on your smartphone or something, is typically measured by the number of views, the number of stars received, something like that. If you're using some sort of forum structure where information can be shared, the frequency of forum posts, the interactions that occurred, the length of threads that occurred, the number of responses to the forum post, the timeliness of the responses to the forum post. So they're outputs. We've put the information out there. The first part said, okay, we measured our collection process. The output process says we're measuring the use of the information, and we're measuring it with quantitative measures that are relatively easy to track on a computer. Other measures. We can count the activities, obviously, that have taken place. That's the output measure. We can do satisfaction surveys where we ask people whether they're using the information, how well it's being used, what they think of the information, what they learned from it, perhaps. We're able to get a little bit better information beyond just counting outputs, where we're qualitatively or quantitatively able to measure what people think. But let's take a look back at really what the goal is. So what's the goal? The goal is knowledge flow and knowledge transfer. That's why I've built the knowledge management process. I want knowledge flow and knowledge transfer. I want to transfer best practices. We want to transfer the lessons learned from this project to the next project team. We want to transfer the lessons learned from the last person who had to set up a new division, from the last person who had to go work a trade show, from the last person who had to go out and make a sales call to this particular class of customer. We want communities of sharing. We want this structure in the organization where people are sharing information in some sort of structured fashion, where they're sharing it with each other. And really, we want the creation of a sharing culture in the organization. We want to go from an organization, the Model 1 organization we talked about earlier in the class, where everything was highly controlled and highly hierarchical, to this Model 2 organization where there's a culture of sharing, there's a culture of learning, learning's accepted, knowledge transfer is accepted. Knowledge transfer is part of the culture in the organization. So we want to get to that point. That's where we want to be with our knowledge management process. So how do you capture the business impact? What's the business impact of sharing knowledge? If you transfer best practices, if we transfer lessons learned, if you've got some process whereby employees in the organization, participants in the organization, can come out and get knowledge without having to learn it themselves, without having to relearn it. We can all relearn the knowledge. It takes a long time. But if we can get those lessons out to all members of the organization, what kind of business impact will we have? Well, these are some examples I've put up here. You'll have reduced training costs. If I'm able to put material out there in my knowledge system that helps train new employees, it helps show them how this particular job is done, it'll save me money. If I'm able to train employees in the job in some way, they get information that they need to do their job, they're more likely to stay. So I've reduced my turnover costs. More effective marketing. If I'm able to have information about the customer, specific things about the customer that might be useful to the next person making a sales call on that customer, or specific information to the next person making a sales call on that type of customer, that would be very useful for my marketing efforts. If I have information on how effective my prior Facebook advertising campaign was, or my prior newspaper advertising campaign was, if I could take the lessons learned of the last 5 years, the last 10 years of the various marketing campaigns, and apply that to the new marketing campaign, I'm not learning on the fly. I'm taking those lessons learned and I'm starting with that. So you can have more effective marketing. You have faster processes. If we have knowledge and we understand it, we have breakdowns in particular pieces of the process. If we understand that, if we work around that, if we work to correct that, we can improve the operational flow of the business. Better customer service. If we have a knowledge of what the customer wants, if we have a knowledge of what the customer's needs are, if that information's in the hands of somebody, that can be useful to the business. If our customer service representatives have an understanding, again, of lessons learned, best practices, things like that, from the organization, from a business perspective, they know how to do their job better, similar to reduced training costs. That helps the business. If we have less searching, if people spend more time doing their job, trying to solve a problem, market to a customer, sell a product, develop a new process, etc., implement a new system, something like that. If they're spending less time searching for information, they're not digging through the archives to find it, they're simply searching for it in some place in a retrieval system where it's automated. That's valuable to the business. We also have this opportunity to avoid mistakes, errors, rejection rates, increase customer satisfaction. To the extent that our knowledge management system allows our employees to improve their work, we increase our customer satisfaction, we reduce our errors, rejection rates, and things like that. So we're avoiding mistakes. Avoiding mistakes saves the company money. And really, one of my favorites, I've used it in a lot of examples during this course, more effective project teams. You have shorter projects, better implementation. What's the usual problem with a project team? It takes a while to get it started. As any project team goes through a process, there are fits and starts as things work, things don't work. So what we're really saying here is if I can share the lessons learned from Project Team A with Project Team B, which will then share them with Project Team C, chances are I'll have better project teams and I'll lead to shorter project timeframes and better project implementation. All of these create a positive impact for the business. So our knowledge management process, if we do it right, is creating a positive impact for our business. So if we look at this from a pure business perspective, we look at this from sort of from the financial impact perspective, we want to look at what's our return on investment, what's our ROI from our knowledge management project. So if we think about it in a simple sense, our knowledge management program has costs. It costs a lot of money to hire a chief knowledge officer. It costs a lot of money for the knowledge officer to then design the programs, hire some specialists to go out and capture information from each of the individuals in the organization about what they do, bring that information into some structure that is retrievable, searchable, shareable. It costs money. You're sort of creating a process out there that you would like to live and be organic in the organization, yet you have to invest in doing that. So that's the knowledge management program cost. Well, the second piece of this is the knowledge management program also has benefits, and those are the benefits of the activities we talked about on the prior slide. Reduce costs, reduce errors, improve customer satisfaction, etc. So there's benefits. So you quantify the benefits. You get a cost savings from doing something, you get revenue increases, etc. You basically now have program costs and you have program benefits. So first part of an ROI calculation is what are the net program benefits? Again, the net program benefits are sort of the program benefits minus the cost. So it costs, because of my knowledge management program, I save $2 million a year. I have $2 million a year in benefits from the program. And my knowledge management program is thought to cost, let's say $500,000 a year. So I have $2 million in benefits, $500,000 in cost. Therefore, my net program benefits might be $1.5 million in the example I've just put forth. And really the final part of measuring ROI is simply the calculation of ROI itself, which is net program benefits divided by net program cost. You multiply it by 100 to express it as a percentage. So in my example, if my benefits were $1.5 million on a $500,000 cost, that's 300. So my net that's a 300% ROI on my program. So we can say that by implementing the knowledge management program, an example I just put forth, we had a 300% return on investment. Now you might not get that much of investment. You might have, program benefits that are below the program, not 100%. You might put a $500,000 program in and save $250,000 per year. That would be a 50% ROI. As long as you have positive net program benefits, you are going to have a positive ROI. And I think that's the key piece of looking at ROI, looking at knowledge management and ROI in a business. Are my program benefits worth the program cost? If ROI is positive, the answer would be yes. And just one final concluding thought about your knowledge management. A little cartoon here. I forgot to make a backup copy of my brain, so everything I learned last semester was lost. I'm sort of wondering at this point if many people are remembering this from their prior semesters as they go through this class. And I'm hoping that you will retain some of the knowledge management information that we've expressed in this class, and make up a backup copy of your brain someplace, put it in a repository file someplace, so that this information is valuable to you as you move forth in your communications and information management careers. Thank you.